Hey everyone, today's market update is packed with headlines you'll want to know. We've got inflation reports that have people scratching their heads, a big shift in mortgage credit scoring, home listing disappearing off the market, and a closer look as to why interest rates might not move much this summer. Plus, what's really happening with consumer confidence and how that could impact buyers and sellers in the months ahead. Let's break it all down. So yesterday we got the CPI report, and today we followed it with the PPI. These are both key inflation reports. Now, I've been seeing a lot of confusion online, especially around how tariffs are showing up in these numbers. So let's clear it up real quick. Yes, prices are rising a little, but not nearly as bad as some headlines are making it out to be. CPI showed a modest 0.23% increase for the month. That's mostly from rent, healthcare, and everyday stuff like food. And yeah, tariffs are starting to show up, but remember, tariffs are a one-time hit to prices. They're not sustained like inflation. Then today's PPI, which looks at wholesale prices, came in flat, literally 0%. But that doesn't tell the full story. Last month's numbers were quietly revised higher, so the real average across both months is about 0.15%, which is actually a pretty tame reading and even slightly better than expected. That's good news for mortgage rates. Now, with all this data, the bond market has been a little dramatic. We dipped below the 200-day moving average yesterday, which isn't ideal, but popped right back above it today. Mortgage bonds are up slightly, and the 10-year Treasury is back down to 4.45%. Bottom line, things are tight. There's room for improvement if data keeps cooling, but we're still in a float with caution type of territory. All right, big update from HUD and FHA. They're scrapping 12 different policies to cut red tape. We're talking appraisal rules, flood risk forms, and underwriting restrictions, all gone. One highlight, lenders no longer have to submit the SCIF form, the one that never really helped borrowers anyway. Also, part-time underwriters can now qualify under certain conditions. HUD's message is clear, buying a home shouldn't be buried under paperwork. According to Fannie Mae, housing sentiment dropped in June, down almost 4 points. Affordability is still the big roadblock. Only 16% of people say their income is up from last year, and fewer expect rates to drop anytime soon. That said, buying sentiment actually did tick up a little bit. 28% of folks say it's a good time to buy, which is way better than last year's 14%. So some light is at the end of the tunnel. Inventory keeps rising, up nearly 29% year over year, but at the same time, home delistings are still spiking. In May, we saw 13 delistings for every 100 new listings. That's a big jump, 10 from last year and just 6 in 2022. So sellers are either pricing too high, waiting for better conditions, or both. Mortgage rates dipped a little bit to 6.79% as a national average, which gave a boost to refinance applications. They're up 7% week over week and 40% higher than this time last year. Purchase applications barely moved, but they're still 16% higher than this week in 2024. So even with the uncertainty, there are still buyers that are showing up. Another headline, the Trump administration officially ended the PAVE task force, which was created under Biden to reduce appraisal bias. It's unclear if the old framework remains in place, but the site's gone, and the requirements for reporting bias have been pulled back. HUD's stance, less regulation means lower costs and easier access to home ownership. Tomorrow we'll get more insight into consumer spending with retail sales and other consumer data. So far, inflation looks manageable, but if retail sales show softening, it could be another signal for the Fed to move on to rate cuts later this year. And speaking of the Fed, the race to replace Jerome Powell is heating up. 3 names are in the mix, and we'll keep a close eye on that since leadership will absolutely shape how rates evolve. So here's your quick hits, a little recap of what we talked about. CPI and PPI reports were mixed but manageable. FHA eliminates 12 policies to cut red tape for homebuyers. Fannie Mae housing sentiment dropped, but buyer outlook improved slightly. Refinance demand jumped 7% with rates easing. Home delistings are up 35% year over year. Sellers are waiting out the market. Appraisal bias task force is officially shut down. HUD and FHA are reviewing buy now, pay later debt in mortgage apps. That's your quick update for today. If you've got clients asking about the market, forward this along or feel free to reach out. We're halfway through the year, and despite the heat in Arizona, the data is finally starting to cool. Let's keep an eye on what tomorrow brings with retail sales, and as always, I've got your back on everything mortgage and market. I'll see you next week.